So Yates, how did you get started in rentals? What was your first step?
First step I took was I called my 8th grade sweetheart.
Huh, that's a new one. So Yates, you decided you want to get started growing your rental portfolio, you want to get in rentals. And the first thing you need to do is you need to talk to people, right? So we're going to talk in this video about the first 14 people that you talk to and that you need to talk to if you want to get invested in real estate and start to grow a rental portfolio.
So, the number one person?
Before we do that,
What?
let's talk about subscribing. So please subscribe to this channel. If you get any content, any value out of it, please smash that like button and leave a comment. It really, really helps the YouTube algorithm. Who knows what that is, but it really helps it if you guys interact with our channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit that like button and throw a comment. I don't even care what you comment about. Tell us what your favorite color is, but please put a comment in the comment box and make sure to hit that like button. Now, to you, Yates, let's talk about who's the first person you talked to once you decide you want to get into rental.
So the first person I talked to was my wife.
Okay, so that's your 8th grade sweetheart.
That's my 8th grade sweetheart. So, you know, to me, and I've learned from talking to other investors, you know, if you have a significant other, you really need to get them on board because this isn't something you do lightly.
Correct.
This is going to eat up a lot of weekends, a lot of evenings, especially since I have a full-time job.
It takes time for sure, and you want your significant other to be on board with you.
Yes.
Real quick story, I did not do that at first. My wife is amazing. She stuck with me. She didn't kick me out of the house, but I did not communicate well with her from the beginning like you are doing now. So you are learning from my mistakes.
That's right.
Communicate the best you can. I finally started communicating with my wife and it went a lot smoother, but you definitely need to communicate it and make sure your significant other knows what's going on. So what did you talk to her about?
You definitely can learn something from a youngster. I'm proof of that.
There you go.
I like to learn from other people's mistakes. So I talked to my wife and I said, you know, how many would you like? How many should we shoot for? She's like 200.
200, you
200 rentals, so
done.
That's the goal, done.
200 rentals, okay, so you got her, she's on board. You explained to her the time, the systems, the processes, because you have some real estate experience from a while ago as far as buying and rehabbing, but it's been a long time. So as far as you actually buying property, so you're ready to get back in.
It's been a long time.
And she understands, and you got her on board. All right. So who's the second person?
Second person, well, we decided to partner with somebody.
Okay. Okay.
And then the third person would be his spouse.
Okay. Well, let's go number two. So you decided.
So number two was my partner.
So that's the important thing is decide you want to do this on your own. Obviously, your significant other may help, but do you want to take an outside partner, or do you want to do this on your own? And you decided to bring in a partner. Why don't you tell them a little bit why you decided to bring in a partner?
So I never really did rentals in the past. I was a rehabber for a little while because I don't have a thick skin to deal with renter problems.
You're right, I can see your blood.
I know, renter issues, you know, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But I was talking to my neighbor one day and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. I said, yeah, what do you want to do? He says, I want to do rentals. I said, really?
Me too.
Me too. So we decided to partner together and he has the personality type to handle tenants.
So that little thicker skin to be able to put your foot down and not be
Right.
pushover is a little hard, but you know, have that empathy for people where you'll believe a story whether it's true or not.
Right, right.
Okay.
And he really doesn't have any rehab experience. So I have a rehab background and he has a business, you know, kind of how to run a business and how to take care of tenants and all that kind of stuff background.
Okay, that makes sense. You probably know if you've seen any of our videos that Lucas is my partner in our rental portfolio, and that is the key. If you're looking for a partner, make sure you guys complement each other. If you guys have the same skill sets, what do you need that person for? So you need someone that has opposing skill set. My skill set is more negotiating, marketing, purchasing, and Lucas's skill set is a little more of the systems, the processes, and the financials, and kind of running everything on paper and in the background. So we complement each other well. It sounds like you and your partner are going to complement each other.
So we actually came up with a whole list of tasks that I could think of off the top of my head, and by talking to a few other landlords, what other tasks that are going to be involved, and then we wrote it all out, and then we just put like our initials by the ones that we thought we were good at.
Okay.
And some of them overlap naturally, but some of them were clearly him and some of them were clearly me. So we had it all covered, the whole list. So it's like, that's cool. Let's go, man.
Makes a ton of sense. All right, so Then you guys had a meeting with the spouses. So you talked to your spouse, and then you guys separately, and then you talked to each other, and then you brought everybody on board.
Yes, because the spouse is your other partner, whether it's the face or not. You get that pillow partner.
And depending on your state, they're legally the other partner, whether you want them to be or not in your LLC. Even if they're not on the LLC, like in Missouri, it's a common law state. My wife's not on any of our LLCs, but she is still half owner of my portion of the LLC because I'm married to her. I know some states are different, so check that out. But you definitely want to have your wife on board. Legally or not, you want to have her on board.
Yeah, on that. So.
Alrighty, so really the partner and your wife are both the same, the second person. So the third outside person you talked to was?
Actually, I know a guy that has a nice rental portfolio. It's a little more mature. He started in 04, so his has been going for 16 years now.
His name's Brian.
Yeah, you might have seen him on this channel even. So I brought my partner in, and we actually sat down with him for about an hour. So I say my mentor. I talked to a mentor for landlording to make sure that we're thinking clearly. Are we thinking about all the things we need to think about while moving forward in this? Because I want to go with my eyes wide open.
Why wouldn't you talk to somebody that knows more than you about it? It makes a ton of sense. If I'm going to go want to fix up my car, I'm not just going to go do that with a bunch of tools. I'm going to talk to somebody who's done it, have him teach me and show me how to do it. So if you're wanting to do something you've never done before, go talk to somebody who's already done it, which is your point. So a mentor. So that's the third person to talk to. So those are 3 great people. We got 11 more great ones that you need to talk to every single one of these people before you get started or as you're getting started. So stay tuned for all 14. So we have 11 more. So what was the fourth person?
Yeah, I want to also mention, both of us have been educating ourselves, so we're kind of getting a basic of the terminology and all that kind of stuff. So we're really trying to go after experts in our area, not just YouTube videos.
Which YouTube videos can help.
That's where we learned our basics. What's the game plan? That's how we learned it through YouTube, but we want to start refining our processes and all that stuff.
Who's the fourth person that you talked to?
Okay, so the fourth category of person would be CPAs. So we contacted some CPAs to figure out how do we need to set up our books since we're a partnership and that, and also how do you set up your chart of accounts for handling tenants and all that kind of stuff. So CPA was our next step because my normal CPA isn't a real estate expert necessarily, and my partner, he files this through TurboTax and stuff.
Yeah, you can't use TurboTax if you're buying rental properties. You can use that even if you're super, super good with books and you've done TurboTax a lot. You're not going to see all the tax benefits of real estate without talking to a CPA who has actually been there and done it. In this video above, actually, we have Brian, who we're talking to, who's our other partner in this, has a video where he talks to our CPA about tax benefits. So you want to talk to an expert in real estate. So that's important. So bring that expert on so you can realize all the tax benefits of owning real estate. So,
and how I found the CPAs?
Yes, how'd you find them?
Was a different category, bookkeepers. I knew a couple of bookkeepers that specialized in landlord and rehabber books, like QuickBooks stuff. And I said, who do you like for CPAs? Because the one that you guys use, she's booked up. So couldn't use her, so I need to go out and find some other people.
So that's the fifth group of people is bookkeepers, because a bookkeeper and a CPA are different. CPA is much more expensive. You don't want to use a CPA to run your everyday and every month books. You can maybe have them true them up at the end, which is they go through everything and make sure everything's entered correctly, but that still can be expensive. You're going to want a bookkeeper, probably costs 20% of the cost of a CPA per hour. Someone that can just make sure your chart of accounts, your ledgers, everything are synced up and true at the end of every month. So when you do hand them off to the CPA, they don't spend a ton of time checking that. They see that they're right, and then they can move on to realizing your tax benefit.
Right, because we want to set up our books so that we do not use much of the CPA's time.
Yes.
Correct. So you want to be as efficient as possible, and you don't want to have to go back and figure out from receipts what the heck you did. So we want to get the books all set up, getting going first. So bookkeeper was the next one we went after.
Okay, and how about number 6, the 6th group of people?
So that was, we went to start talking to attorneys because we were going to set up LLCs and a partnership agreement kind of thing, and LLCs with a partnership, and how we were going to structure a whole thing, because we're planning on doing 200. So this isn't an Excel spreadsheet kind of thing and a sole proprietor. We're actually setting up a business that could potentially be worth way more than $20 million in 5
Way
or 6
more.
years.
If you have 200 properties, it's going to be worth probably closer to 30 to 40 million, and you want that you want to be legally protected. You want your partner to be legally protected, because who knows, maybe after 50 you want to be done, or he wants to be done. You have to have those things in place where you can easily and fairly get in or out of your deal and just protect your guys' stuff. Even if you do stay together through all 200 properties, you want to make sure you're doing it legally.
Yeah. I mean, we've got issues like, how are we going to pass this on to the next generation? Because we're trying to create generational wealth here. We both have good jobs, but we like our jobs. We have retirement accounts and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to create generational wealth. So we're trying to set up a partnership, but then our partnership needs to be transferred to our generations below us. So it gets a little more complicated in what we're trying to do. You could easily start doing rentals with just a sole proprietorship, saying, hey, I'm a guy doing rentals, and a spreadsheet. But we're looking at the big picture, and we're setting everything up for the big picture.
Love it. Who's the 7th person that you need to talk to if you're wanting to get started in rental properties?
Okay, so the 7th category or type of person I talked to was the long-term financing bankers.
Okay.
Now, I did find out that they'll also do some short-term financing for us.
Yep.
But we have to use them in a series kind of thing, because it's hard to go from a short-term, the same banker, to the long-term with the same banker. You got to go from one bank to a different bank to refi.
So when
it gets a little technical.
So when you own a property, you're going to have it on a mortgage. If you never owned rental properties before, you're going to have it on anywhere from a 20 to a 30-year mortgage with a bank, just like your house. You're going to have a mortgage on the property. So what Yates is talking about now is, we call it long-term financing, is those banks that are going to hold that note over 20 to 30 years. So he wants to make sure, and he sets up the relationship with them so he knows what that looks like on the back end, because what we preach and what you're going to do is everything through the BRRRR method and the BRRRR strategy. If you're not familiar with the BRRRR method and BRRRR strategy, it is a way to buy real estate without using any of your own money. There's a video up here which we'll talk about, which is goes over the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy in a little bit greater detail. It kind of lays it all out there. So that's what Yates is doing. So he's setting up that long-term relationship with the bank.
Yeah, so when we met with the bankers, what we wanted to know was how long did it take, how long would we have to season something to refi it into long-term financing? What kind of interest rates would we have? What kind of, what loan to value would they do? The LTV is the loan to value. So, and it ranged. It went from 70, 75 to 80%, depending on the bank we talked to. So, but we have to know that, so then we can go and do the purchase and the short-term financing and end in the right spot that we can get all of our money back out with the cash out refi to pay off all the short-term stuff.
Yep. So you buy a property with short-term financing, and then you fix it up, and then you go into long-term financing and take a long-term note, because the interest rates are lower and the monthly payment is lower, so you cash flow much more that way, and you end up paying less in interest. So, all right, who is the 8th person that you talked to about building this rental portfolio?
So the 8th person, now that I talked to long-term banker type people, I went to a hard money lender.
Okay.
So I want to find out what are the rules of the game for the hard money lender. You know, what kind of reserves do we need to have? What do they look for when I'm applying for them? You know, do I need to get anything in order in my house, my financial house, so to speak, to use them? Or how fast can they move? What do I need to do to get pre-approved? You know, what rules do I have to play if I'm using a hard money lender?
Yeah, because most of that, the last group of people you talked to, which were the long-term lenders, they will do that short-term initial purchase financing, but it's a lot more hoops to go through.
Yes.
They can't move as quickly. So you want to make sure you have that short-term funding lineup, which there's a video up here. If you don't know what a hard money lender is, they help you purchase and potentially rehab the property using their money, not your own. So there's a video up here where our hard money lending team talks about what hard money lending is and what the benefits to you are. So you talk to the banks, the long-term and the short-term. Now that you have all your funding lined up, who's the 9th group of people that you talk to?
So the next one was the property managers that are currently managing properties, because I needed to know what kind of software are they using, what kind of rules do they establish, do they start up a website, how do they collect their money? You know, I just wanted to get the lay of the land. We, you know, don't even have our first house, but I want to know, how are they running their tenants? How are they screening them? You know, everything that a property manager does.
Well, because once you get this asset that you've bought through your funding and you've lined everything up, you've rehabbed it, you've made it nice, now you have a long-term note on it, you don't want to pay that mortgage every month, you want that tenant to pay that for you. And what do you need to do? You need to get a tenant in there, you need to manage them properly. One of the most expensive and biggest mistakes you can make when you're just getting started, or if you've been doing real estate investing a long time with rentals, is not managing your property properly. So you want to make sure to manage that property properly, and that's what you're talking about, is setting up those, getting the processes and systems in place, because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to have tenants in there, they're going to have to evict, but you want to do that as least as possible. So you talk to experienced property managers.
Right. And just as a little side note or a little background was, I tried a rental 30 years ago, and it bit me in the butt because
so you must have been like 5 or 10 years old 30 years ago.
Something like that. So way before you were even born, I tried a rental and I got bit because of the tenant I put in it, and I said, no more until I can learn how to do this. And then life happened and it never happened. So I wanted to know the rules of the game, and then that's also why I brought in a partner, because he's really going to be the property manager.
So we've covered 9 different people. There's still 5 more important people that you need to talk to if you want to get started building a rental portfolio the right way. So saying that to say this, who's the 10th group of people that you talk to?
I actually talked to an appraiser.
Okay.
When I was talking to the long-term financing banks, the local bankers, I said, who were some appraisers that I could talk to? Because most of the landlords that I know, they actually are in the metro area, and I'm about an hour west.
Okay.
And my buy box, or the place we want to buy our rentals, are more out in the country. So we're in different school districts, different counties. We're actually going to be in a couple different counties that we're doing it, but it's a much more rural area. So I wanted to know, what should we be looking for in houses that might trip us up because of where we're buying them? Because the comparables can be a lot harder. Like, we may have to go out 5-10 miles.
Because you want to know what a house is going to be worth. You're buying this house, you're fixing it up. You need to know what it's going to be worth when it's fixed up. So you talking to people that do that all day, every day, appraise / tell you what the value of the house is. You talk to them before you're even doing this, so you get a feel for what they look for and why they look for what they look for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, if they're in a septic versus a city sewer, if they have a well versus public water, if they have a garage or a shed out back that's got a car in it, because that's the kind of stuff that we'll run into out in the country. So I just wanted to know, what do they value or not value? What actually will bring up the value. So then we also know how to fix the properties to get maximum value back when we go to get the refi, to get that 80% or 75% loan to value.
We're cranking through these. Who's the 11th?
I actually talked to several landlord people that had partners.
Do I remember that conversation?
Yeah,
okay,
I talked to Lucas.
Yeah.
No, I talked to several of them. I talked to one that had a partner when he started, and then that partnership, I wouldn't say broke up, but I mean, it was an amicable thing. But I wanted to know, I wanted to be able to navigate a partnership with rental properties. So I actually interviewed 3 different people that had partners with their rental portfolio as to what did they learn doing it? What would they have done differently? What did they do that they thought was a really good idea? Just things like that, so we can incorporate it into our partnership and get started on the right foot, so that we don't have to deal with like partnership issues down the road. I want everybody to be on the same page.
That makes sense. Yates wants to have all his bases covered, which is key, because you can't hit a grand slam. Just thought of this on the spot unless your bases are covered, and you want to hit a grand slam, right?
Yeah,
that was a great analogy. Number 12 is an important one. I know what it is because I just looked at the sheet, but number 12 is extremely important because you need to buy these properties, right? You need to find somewhere to. You're not just, these properties aren't just going to appear. So who's the 12th group of people?
12th one was wholesalers.
Okay, and who are wholesalers?
Wholesalers are people that all they do is go out and find distressed homeowners or whatever, put properties under contracts, and then they sell those contracts to landlords and rehabbers and whoever, and they just take a little split in the middle. Okay, so I want to get my name out there so that I become the go-to guy for the wholesalers and their great deals.
Yep.
So I just started talking to a few of them. Once we get all of our paperwork done and all our financing completely in place, I'm going to hound every wholesaler I know or I can track down. And some of them will just be bandit signs. I'll probably call the number and say, hey, are you a wholesaler in this area? Because your bandit sign's in my area. Put me on your list. This is what we're looking for.
And bandit signs are those "We Buy Houses" signs on the side of the road that you see in any market you're in. Call those people. Those are more than likely wholesalers. There's people that they do not want to close on a property. They don't want to rehab. They don't want to hold it as a rental. They want to get it under contract directly from the home seller, mark it up, 2 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever. It doesn't matter how much they mark it up as long as your numbers work. And that's where they make their money. That's where they make their living. And that's where they feed us properties. We probably are going to buy 25% of our properties at least this year. We buy 200 a year, so we're going to buy at least 50 houses this year just from wholesalers, and we're buying them at good enough numbers that we can turn around and sell them or rent them. Lucky number 13. Who is the lucky number 13 people that you talk to?
Well, after wholesalers, I'm going to contact all the realtors in my market.
Okay.
And I, you know, the original thought that I had before I talked to everybody was that I want to get on a realtor's email list, so that they'll send me all the MLS properties that say as is and handyman specials and all that kind of stuff, properties that I could probably get a discount to. But what I learned through talking to everybody was that really I want to meet realtors that do a lot of properties in my area, because they run into properties that they really don't want to put on the MLS.
100% right.
Like if it's a hoarder house, or if the building's almost condemnable, you know, just the building's really in rough shape, they don't want to put it on the MLS and then try to, well, one, it muddies up their little listings and all that kind of stuff, but it's much harder to get people in. Or let's say it's an occupied house and it's really hard to get showings and stuff. I can just go in as one person, look at the house, inspect the house. I don't have to drag inspectors through. I'm buying it as is. I'm gonna do it with a cash, so to speak. So I'm the only person they really need to bring through.
Real estate agents are like anybody else. They want the least path of resistance. So they want the easy button, and you can be that easy button for them because you know your stuff, you've done all your research, and you're ready to purchase. You know your numbers, and I just need to get in there one time, Mr. Realtor, and I can make you a cash offer, close in 3 weeks. That is the easy button, and that's what they want. The last but not least, which we'll get to here in a second, I want to remind you to please like this video. We are out here sweating our butts off, trying to shoot a fun video for you guys on the top group of people that you need to talk to when you want to get started buying rental properties. So we're out here sweating our butts off for you. So please smash that like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and put a comment. I don't even care what the comment is, but put a comment in the comment section. We would really appreciate that. So, all right, so Yates, who is the last group of people, the 14th group of people you talked to?
I actually called one of my old handymans.
Okay, from back in your old life?
From back in my old life, a couple decades ago. I wanted to see if he would maybe be interested in being my main handyman guy, fixing up these rentals, because if we're going to do 200 of them in the next 5 or 6 years, that's a lot of properties. So I have a full-time job, my partner has a full-time job, so I want somebody that I know, like, and trust kind of running my projects, and I know him and I know what he's all about, and I can train him to do the fixes that I like, you know, to the level I like and that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that I have a handyman lined up, because time is money. Once you get a property under contract and you buy it, you've only got weeks before you want that thing finished, a tenant in it, and you're refining out.
And that handyman can help you come up with the initial rehab costs and budget. So he's going to be one doing the work, or he knows what things cost in general, because that's his job, is to fix up houses and be a handyman. So we can help you with those initial questions when you're just getting into a property, because a big thing we get all the time is, I don't know how much this house is going to cost to get fixed up.
Right.
And that handyman that you talk to can do that. A little bonus tip for you is, if you're, is there a bug around me?
You like that horsefly?
Yeah. Oh, he's fun. All right, bonus tip. When you're doing that, that's probably, or bonus tip, when you are getting some properties under contract and making offers, you definitely want to know how much it's going to cost to fix up that property. So talk to as many contractors as you can. Contractors are pretty busy right now because the market is so hot in St. Louis and around the country. So you want to at least get 3 bids. If there's a contractor you don't know, never used before, make sure to at least get 3 bids on every major item that you're going to do to the house. It takes a little time, but it is well worth your time to get that bid at the right price. Bonus tip. You got all these 14 groups of people which you need to talk to. If you don't have, you know, if you have some of them on your list or you don't, these are the 14 that you really need to talk to. How do you meet all these dang people, Yates?
Through meetups, buyers clubs, Facebook groups. You know, I started at the buyers clubs and all that kind of stuff, and I kind of knew a few people from my past life, but that's really where I met most of these people, was at meetups. Local RIA groups.
So if you got anything out of this video, if you enjoyed the content, Lucas and I shot a video where we go into every detail, pretty much every single thing you need to know about buying your first rental property. A lot of the stuff we talked about today, if you maybe didn't get a few of the words we use and a few of some of the jargon we use, we go into detail about all that in this video above. After watching that video, it's a long video, you'll know a ton about how to get your first rental property. You'll know way more than I knew before I probably had 10 rentals. So make sure to check that video out if you enjoyed this video. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe.